This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, well, let's talk Suns, and actually let's talk the future of sports in the Valley of the Sun. Our guest today, Barry Bloom, he's an old friend of the show, a man who's calls, I guess, colleagues, friends, people talk to him. That's what I'm trying to say. So he got the exclusive with Suns owner Mat Ishbia about a potential return of NHL hockey to Phoenix, and would Ishbia be involved? So let's have an exclusive conversation with the guy who got the exclusive. Boomski, Barry Bloom, zooms in here to the Extra Point podcast. And how has your social media feed been the past 48 hours since you broke the story?
Oh, it just exploded. And, you don't forget to mention I'm a very senior writer for Sportico. And, we're the ones who broke the story. And it went national and it was copied everywhere. So it's gotten a lot of exposure. And, interesting that a lot of my local friends, responded on Twitter, responded by copying the story, and thank Jenna Ortiz. She's great. She covered the Coyotes on whatever part-time basis the Arizona Republic let her do it, but she's a big hockey fan and a nice young woman, and she copied the story and gave us credit and gave me credit. So fun to see my story in the Arizona Republic.
That, man, I think is that can't be the first time you've been in the Arizona Republic, and this can't be. How many exclusives do you think this is for you now? Do you have a tally?
Oh God, you go back to the newspaper days. We're just lamenting it. When I worked for the San Diego Tribune and the Union Tribune, and I covered the Padres and the Clippers, and you broke a story. I worked for the afternoon paper, and when you broke a story, that newspaper was thrown on the driveway at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the morning paper couldn't match it until the next morning. So, I love those days. They were great days. One of my favorite was, Trevor Hoffman told me that he was trying to get back on with the Padres or the Diamondbacks to pitch maybe one last season. And he says, if that doesn't happen, I'm not going out of town again. I'm going to stay in San Diego and I'm going to retire. This is around Christmas time. We're having lunch in San Diego. So I said, you want me to write that? And he goes, well, hold on. I'll let you know. So I go, yeah, okay. People say those things and they never follow through. But Trevor is such a great guy. A couple of weeks later, I get a phone call and he goes, I'm signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I go, you're kidding? Yeah, I am kidding. He goes, I'm retiring. And I'm going to go to the Padre front office, and I want you to write it now, because it's going to break out of either Milwaukee or San Diego. So get it on the site. And I was working for MLB.com at the time, and we got the story up and broke it. But that was one of those things where, people followed it, and Trevor talked to other people. But in this case, Ishbia wasn't available for anybody else, and the franchise hasn't released anything. So it's been basically an exclusive. Either you copy the story or you don't. So it's rare at this point.
All right.
And I'll find stories, ton of them.
Well, okay. So give us the for people who are just finding out about this and haven't logged on to social media and seen your story about Mat Ishbia being interested in bringing an NHL hockey team back here to the desert. What was his reaction when you asked him the question? Would he be interested in being a part of this?
Well, the reaction was, what he said in the story. Basically it spun off of the question of building a new arena, which he said, he loves the current arena, but eventually we're going to have to build a new arena, which, once the Intuit Center comes online this year, $2 billion private investment by Bomber. Once he sees that state-of-the-art thing, he's going to want something like it or even better. The Footprint Center is a very nice little arena. It's 32 years old. They've done whatever they can with it. There's plenty of space around it. So now the next question is, if you're going to build a new arena, how about putting a hockey team in it? And it was like he didn't back off. He just said, yeah, I mean, it's a shame what happened with them. And I said, are you interested in bringing back the Coyotes? And he goes, it's something that I'm considering, we'll take a look at. So it's really just you get the subject, you ask the right question, and in this case, I got great answers, and it turned into a great story. So it's like really 40 years in journalism, you learn how to do these things.
No, for sure. It was Barry Bloom, in his element, doing his thing and getting the story. So he's interested. How do we get to the point from interested to actually having NHL hockey back here in the desert?
Well, I think it's a good question, and really, I've had some people who would know tell me that there are already talks between Ishbia and the NHL about this. And as I said in the piece, now there comes a question. This is the type of ownership that Gary Bettman and Bill Daly have been wanting here for 30 years. A guy with deep pockets, a guy with a real arena, a guy with the prospect of building a new arena. I mean, Mat Ishbia is worth $10 billion. So taking $1 billion out of his pocket for the Coyotes and even $2 billion out of his pocket to build a new arena without much public assistance is not going to be really too much sweat off his back. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to spend his money, but the point of the matter is he runs a mortgage company. He's going to continue to make money. He's 44 years old, and he's got a whole life ahead of him, and he's anchored himself in the sports market in Phoenix, and really he's a modern day Colangelo in this era with money, because Jerry made his money in sports really, but he didn't really have any money going into sports. But he parlayed building one team on top of another and having the city build him an arena. And it's a shame that back in 1996 when the Coyotes came here, that Jerry just didn't take on the ownership of the Coyotes and have the two teams working out of that arena. And then there might have been enough money working under one ownership for it to work. But working under two ownerships with Richard Burke and Jerry being the primary tenant in that building, it just didn't work. And especially within the structure of the National Hockey League. I mean, you look at the National Hockey League, and you could stop and break me in whenever you want here, but it's a ticket-driven local revenue league. There's not a lot of national money that goes out to the teams. So the teams in the bigger markets with the bigger television dollars and the bigger gates and the ability to charge more money for tickets have the most money. Now, for the life of me, I don't see how, Ryan Smith makes the Utah Hockey Club work any better in the Delta Center than the Coyotes worked here, because even with 20,000 people, 6,000 of them in obstructed view seats, paying half money, even with all of that and having that building filled every night, they're going to lose money.
Yeah, but there's goodwill. There's goodwill in Utah. That was something that was severely lacking here, and it's it's so frustrating too as a local sports fan.
At 30 years of losing $50 million a year.
Yeah,
so that's why there was no goodwill here.
Right.
And now you're getting started.
Is it 50? That's the number. $50 million a year.
For average, yeah. Over the course of every year, they never made any money, and that's why no decent owner would invest in it, because it was a money pit. Now, a guy like Matt, he can, fold it into the other franchises, fold it in more dates in the building,
right?
Especially and judging by the response I got from hockey fans here, the response was so positive that he would wind up being, a sports god in this city if he did bring the NHL back. I think inadvertently, I don't think that's what he was doing, but I think if he looks at my Twitter feed, and I'm sure the responses he got in the organization and to the organization, there's a lot of people here who are excited about this, and it probably would make him step up the process to do it. I mean, it's an expansion team now. I think that you don't have the problems of the Coyotes and how Morello let this thing devolve. So you get to start from scratch with an expansion team, whether it's expansion team down the road or they give him the deal Morello had that he couldn't even finish, and just sell him back the Coyote trademarks and the name, and establish an expansion draft somewhere at the end of this season or next season.
Wow, that quick.
In this arena, with the obstructed view seats, just like it is in Utah, until they put another one on the board.
So you'd put them back in downtown Phoenix and have them play in the Footprint Center, and
absolutely.
Is this like could you see this happening in how many years? How quickly do you think you could get an NHL team back?
Happening by the end of not this season, but next season.
Wow.
And here's the thing. Because of the way they do the expansion draft now in the NHL, you have, the cap. Right now, the cap is at $88 million. It'll be higher in 2 years. It'll get close to $100 million. So when you build an expansion team, you have 0 to $100 million to spend to build your team. You don't have to worry about offsetting superstars who want more money, or trying to keep a Stanley Cup team together, or even what happened with Morello, where you basically don't even get to the floor because there's not enough money being produced to even sustain the product. So that's why you had the Vegas team win a Stanley Cup and go to the Stanley Cup twice in 5 years. That's why the Kraken have been successful, and they will continue to be successful, because you have so much money to build a team. And if you bring in good hockey ops people to do this, like Bill Armstrong or Ron Francis or the people in Vegas that did a great job, you can build a winning team here really quickly that would really get the fancy of not only hockey fans here, but people who haven't even followed it and now are going to spill over. And you do like half price hockey season tickets to go. If you're a Suns fan, you get first dibs to that. You got the WNBA there, which is going on all cylinders now, with what's happening with the league and Caitlin Clark. I mean, it just makes so much sense to me.
No, it does. I mean, I had no idea like that we could be thinking a team might be back here. I'm going to have to adjust the sports planner here based on what you're just talking about. Did you get the sense that Ishbia was kicking around this idea then, or you feel like, okay, there's some things some things in the works here that could get this thing really moving here?
I got the sense that this is already rolling around in his mind, and it's already in the process.
Wow.
This wasn't answers like, what are you asking me that for? I haven't even thought of it. And, now that you bring it up, that sounds like a good idea. Now, this is a very successful man from a very good family. And, I think he prides himself in staying ahead of things. And I think since Morello went out about a month ago, leaving the franchise completely dormant, I think that's where he stepped in and started thinking about it and talking to other people. I mean, look, he's a basketball guy. He played basketball at Michigan State, won an NCAA championship playing for Michigan State. He doesn't know much about hockey. But he does know about success and doing things first class. And I think he runs a tremendous operation. What he's done with the WNBA in 18 months since he bought it from Sarver. I mean, that was a stepchild to the Suns when Sarver owned it. Now it's on par with a better practice facility than the Suns have, a newer one, a bigger one, closer downtown, in the arena, by the arena, offices by the arena. He emptied all the offices out of the arena to make more space. I mean, there's a lot of planning, and he's got a lot of good people around him, doing this stuff. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think it's something that was rolling around in his head, and it was just ready for somebody to ask him so he could answer the question.
And he seems as frustrated as other local sports fans that we lost a team. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, well, I think not only that we lost the team in particular, and I use the global we here, but look, I'm a hockey fan from way back. I'm an original Six Ranger fan from when I was a kid in New York. So for me not to have hockey to cover in the winter anymore on the local basis is going to be tough. But I think he looked at it and said what he said. This is a 4-sport town. This is, basketball.
And then he threw soccer in there too, which I was like, is he going to bring an MLS franchise next?
He said, he threw in, I'll throw in soccer. But, yeah. I mean, people forget he's got the Valley Suns in the mullet and the G League playing there this year too. So he's already got 3 teams. He already has his hold on the arena. He already has his 2 practice facilities. He's building an empire here.
Would you name them the Coyotes? Would you name a team if it came back to Coyotes? I would start from scratch. I would even go. I think Firebirds would be cool. Heck, you could call them the Spartans and have Michigan State colors if Mat Ishbia brings an NHL franchise back here. But would you call them the Coyotes, or would you change the name?
I have a soft spot in my heart for the Coyotes. I think that they were never able to get over the hump here for a lot of the reasons I just elucidated. The loss of money, the ability not to have a real deep pockets owner run the team, the fact that they were always playing in either an ill-equipped arena that they couldn't afford to stay in, or another one that was out in the boonies at the time that nobody wanted to get on the freeway to go out to see. I mean, look, the Glendale Arena, by whatever name you want to call it, was a fun place, and it was a great place to watch hockey. I mean, I covered many games there. I sat in the stands there in every spot in the arena. I never sat in a bad seat for a hockey game, whether it was the last row of the upper deck or right by the glass in the lower bowl. But people just didn't want to drive out there. And then, except for the few years when the NHL owned the team and Donnie Murdoch built a damn good team that almost went to the Stanley Cup Finals, they played terrible hockey year in and year out. And then let's not forget that, in Morello's behalf, he buys the team and COVID hits, and he loses the whole second part or last quarter of the hockey season his first year. His next year, he has to play all his games in a aborted schedule with a very limited amount of fans in the stands, and they took a bath. Right. They never were really able to get off the ground here under Morello. So yeah, I'd love to see Jane Doan being brought back in here and given the chance to be the general manager of this team, slap back on the Coyote jersey, unfurl that Doan banner up there in the rafters.
The one that was in the trash?
Yeah, the one that was in the trash in a box down in the arena in Glendale. And that just unfurl that again, have another night honoring him, and then they'll just start the Coyotes all over again. I think it would be great.
All right, I'm game. Let's put Todd Walsh up in the obstructed view seats as well, like he started on the telecast. Yes. Yep. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate your time. We appreciate all your hard work covering Valley sports and your perspective, and look forward to the next exclusive you break on Sportico. Save a spot for us in your interview schedule for the next one if you could.
Okay, anytime.
This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.